This episode of the all-new Marvel Roundup is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code SOUTHGATE to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Welcome to the all-new Marvel Roundup, the Southgate Media Group's guide to the Marvel Comics of the week. As always, I am Phil Parrish, and joining me is...
Charlie Esser!
Alright, the big pal's on my side this week, so I guess I will start with all-new X-Men number 12. You said you got a chance to look through this?
Yes, I did read this one. And my big takeaway was I think Scott's being a matchmaker.
Yeah, because Angel and Laura have been having problems, and Scott basically pushes Laura out the door, you know.
Yeah, gives her a list of, here's all these crimes, these are these things. So apparently, I guess, Beast and Young Beast is, like, profiling the future, too, now. Which, again, makes this whole, we'll get into this. When we get to A-Force, which is my pick of the week, we're gonna really get into what is going on. Oh, by the way, do we want to talk about our comment on the new format?
Sure. Well, it must have came to you. You said Kevin Long had a comment.
Kevin Long, who is one of our fellow podcasters here on the Southgate Media Network, basically said he liked the old system. He liked the old format, He liked where we just went what the comic was, talked about everything that happened into it. And I can get that because, hey, it gets you up to date with what's going on in the Marvel Universe. Mm-hmm. That said, I think, you and me, like talking more about what the nuance of how these books fit into the Marvel Universe. But, of course, this is a podcast for you, the fans. So what we really want is we want to hear from you guys. Do you want us to talk? Do you want us to do the play-by-play and not worry so much about how this fits into the grander scheme of the Marvel Universe? Or do you say, no, man, keep with that? Because we've read all these books. We're comic fanboys just like you. Of course, we spend like $40, $50, $70 a week on comics. What else do we have to spend money on? And so if that's the case and you really want us just to get into the in-depth, let us know. Write to us, and we'll give you the media at the end of the program. So you got to listen to everything. But write to us and let us know your thoughts.
Maybe I'll even put a poll up on Twitter.
Maybe.
See. But, so yeah, I mean, it looks like they kind of work out at least some of their stuff at the end of the issue. But what do you think of Angel's power-up, thanks to, what was that, the Black Vortex?
Well, this gets, for what it's worth, this gets me right back into that whole nonsense with Angel that I've always had with, like, the other Angel, where it's like, I have my wings, now I have death blades. Huh? How many, because, like, this is this Angel, and I think he had wings at the start of the storyline. Was that taking place pre-Black Vortex? I don't know, but it just seems like people just give you whatever Angel is going to work for the story. Mm-hmm. Up until this moment, I did not know that Angel had fire wings and was flying around with fire wings. I did not know that. This is the first time I'm seeing fire wings on Angel, and I was like, okay, Angel has fire wings. And I was like thinking, is he got all Apocalypse did he get Phoenix Forced? What is this about? And, I like how it plays out. I like how it plays out with, I have this fire inside me and I have a fire to kill people too. Yay, let's kiss. And that's nice. That's nice. But like I said, what my takeaway is, I really think Scott set them up. I really think Scott sent them both, gave them both the dossiers. Because the whole point in this is that I guess the Beast has created a program that does, that predicts where crimes are going to happen, and so he gives, and he was talking about how you can manipulate it, which again ties into Civil War. Maybe things are getting manipulated. Ties into Civil War because that's essentially what Ulysses is doing, but that Beast is doing just with a computer. So then they both wind up going on these adventures, and every time that Wolverine shows up at some place to take out a villain, the villain's already been taken out. And at first I'm seeing this, is this going to be a Civil War thing? Is this going to be Carol Danvers got there first? But then we're like, well, no, because Carol Danvers wouldn't leave just the mole man tied up. That's like old Spider-Man stuff. You wouldn't do that as Carol Danvers. And then, of course, it's revealed in the last scene when they're fighting the Goblin Queen. Hey, good to see Madeline Pryor getting work.
I think that's. I'm pretty sure that's that's one of the versions of Madeline from one of the Secret Wars books. So yet another refugee from Secret Wars makes their way to the regular universe.
Yeah. Huh. Although what was interesting is she had the horns, which actually made me start thinking of Satana, which now makes me wonder if the Satana we saw in the Doctor Strange book was actually maybe Madeline Pryor. Yes, we don't know yet. We'll have to write those books. But yeah, so but they kiss, they kill a bunch of goblins. Oh, they said we're not really killing the goblins because goblins just get back up, which is like, well, that's a convenient cop out. Yeah, and you have the killing the hand too, which was also, let's have a convenient cop out where we'll say we can kill the hand because they're murder ninjas.
But except for some of the I don't know, some of the plot points were like, that's convenient. I still thought it was a good book. I give it a thumbs up.
Oh no, I thought it was a great book. I loved it. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I love the idea of Scott playing matchmaker. And if they don't like make that explicit in the next issue, I'm going to be very disappointed. Because it seems like that's exactly what happened. Scott was saying, I'm going to make those two I'm going to make them make kissy faces. Because they love each other. Because Scott's a hopeless romantic. We know that Scott's a hopeless romantic because he's always, chased after Jean Grey for so long, Yeah.
All right. Well, then I guess I'll go to my other X-Men book, quote unquote, Old Man Logan number 10. You said you saw this one also.
I did see this one also. Less to say on this, except for again, this is. I will always say this, man. Old Man Logan has some of the best artwork out there. If there was a weakness to this book, I just think that it's a little of. It just seems like there's not a lot of what the fight is. I guess because why don't you say what happens in the book?
Well, it's a lot of back and forth between the present and the past in Japan because he's facing the what is their name?
The Silent Sons or something like that.
Something like that. Here, I'll look it up. But
yeah.
So, but they basically in the present they have him trapped in a well or a hole, and they keep overloading that old healing factor with arrows, so he keeps flashing back to his past with him and Maureen back in Japan facing them, and she kind of figures out something's up with him.
Yeah.
After they attempt to kill him and he heals. After they stab him in the neck and he heals. Oh, this it's the Silent Order.
The Silent Order. There we go.
So, I don't know if the book was good, but I think maybe that's one of the weaknesses of it is just, I don't know, the momentum. It was a momentum killer, just, going back and forth as much as they did between the past and the present.
Yeah. Well, see, I see that didn't bother me so much. It's just I guess the problem for me was just the, little engine that could quality of the present storyline. Like the future storyline was nice, but like the present storyline, well, you're in a well. Okay, I'm going to climb out of the well. Well, I'm going to shoot you with arrows. Well, I'm just going to climb out of the well again. Well, I'm going to keep on shooting you with arrows. And eventually, I guess what happens is the guy runs out of arrows, and then now I'm climbed out, And then he's like, well, that doesn't matter because I got a whole army. And it's like, yes, and, and I'm still Wolverine, not for nothing, But I did like the flash forwards. I liked everything in the future. I liked seeing the relationship between him and Maureen, where he's like trying to hide this, and she's like, and what I really liked about that was her kind of calling out his man pain, if you will. It's like, do you really think you're the only one that had to do stuff you're not proud of? Since the fall of everything, you really think you're the only one that's been through this nonsense? It's like we all have. I know you think what you went through is so much worse. And granted, it is pretty bad what he went through. But the same, again, he totally got Winter Soldiers on the whole thing. It's like, yeah, well, someone mind controlled you to kill your friends. It's not like you were like, hey, I'm going to go kill all my friends. No, you got mind controlled by evil monsters, and that's what happened. Move on with it, Logan. Move on with it. Yeah, so that's that. But I like Maureen calling him out on that. I like that, and honestly, I didn't mind when I'm reading it. I did not mind the climbing out of the pit bit either, because again, like I said, it's a visually powerful book. This is one of the best examples of visual storytelling in comic books today, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, it was a thumbs up for me. I think maybe they are slowing him down in the present because I don't think these people are super powered. I think it's just like ninja assassin. So it's like, okay, You really can't have them tearing through them in 1 or 2 issues, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, what it is they did slow him down, which they needed to do. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is that he's still the Wolverine. He may be Old Man Logan, but he's still Wolverine. He's still the adamantium-laced, unbreakable Canadian. Yeah. His only weakness is Timbits. You put out some Timbits and some coffee, you can stop him. That's the only thing that'll stop him. Mm-hmm. Little shout out to all our Canadian listeners who know what Timbits and coffee references. So, yes. All right.
I'll go to. I'll do Daredevil number 10, and wow, all the Spider-Man books were good this week. All the books were good this week, but I think Daredevil number 10 is going to be my pick of the week, because I think we're going to be getting a pretty creepy, awesome villain coming up soon here.
Mm-hmm.
Because it basically opens up with, like, Daredevil taking down some hoods, and then later he's in his office as Matt Murdock, and he got blind spotted job, as like an intern or whatever, at the courthouse, but he doesn't know Matt's Daredevil, but Matt knows his blind spot, so it's kind of weird because he's like, oh, maybe you shouldn't go out, because blind spot's talking about going out on patrol, and he's like, maybe you shouldn't do that, you're still injured. And he's like, what would Daredevil say? And Matt's like, well, you're not talking to Daredevil. But Matt's he made a mistake on one of his first cases, so he's like stuck in a night court, but he has to make an excuse and like trade with somebody to get out of there, which isn't going to help his career, because Blind Spot gets an invitation and discovers something in a building, and so he calls. I guess Daredevil gave him a number and said, "Here, call this number." But no, remember how I told you before? Matt's office is in a
elevator shaft.
An elevator shaft. Yeah. Well, I guess the one good thing about that is he just uses his Billy Club line. It's like a straight up shot to the roof, I guess. So. That kind of helps, but no, this is the creepy part. This is where I think we're gonna have a good villain. Daredevil meets Blind Spot. Blind Spot it's an empty room with there's a guy there. He's dead, and there's a wall painted in blood.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, because Blind Spot's like, I don't think there's that much blood in a human body, and Daredevil's like, you'd be surprised, but then at the end, I guess Matt's like using his senses on it, because I guess he says everybody's blood smells different to him, or I think it
makes sense.
Yeah, because of body chemistry, diet, all that background, all that stuff. Because at the end he tells Blind Spot, he says, I might be off, but my count might be off by 1 or 2. He says, because Blind Spot's like, well, how many people do you think blood is up there? And he says, at least 113.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we got the makings of a big serial killer on our hands.
Yeah, well, or someone who just took like a little bit of blood from 113 people and just spread it around. You go to a blood bank, you steal 113 pints of blood, you're going to cover a room. Yeah, I'm just saying, don't always assume the worst. It could be just a big practical joke by the med students at U of M or at NYU.
There's a dead body in the room, too, so.
Oh, okay. But just go to the cadaver lab, grab one of those, get a bunch of different bits of blood. It's going to be funny, trust me. And but Reed Richards was known for these kind of pranks at Empire State University all the time. That bomb throwing madman.
But like I said, that's my pick of the week. It was hard because on any of the Spider-Man books, I was going to do a pick of the week too. But I'll go with this. It's my pick of the week, I guess. So, Charlie,
I don't tear down your pick of the week. But yeah, no, that actually does sound really freaky, spooky, and scary. And I'm sure it's not grad students from Empire State University. I'm sure it's actually Evil Monster Man, which is scary. Okay. So that was your first of the three on your own?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to... I'm going to save my pick of the week for the next round. Let's go to Civil War... Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 8, Civil War 2. You know what I love about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the comic book?
What?
This is everything you want Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV show, to be. In the sense that all these characters are in the Marvel Universe. There are Marvel characters running back and forth all the time. We're opening it up with Phil breaking into Alpha Flight Station, using blind spots invisibility gear, which he apparently has acquired to get some details on what's going on with the visions that the Inhuman Ulysses is having. Meanwhile, back at S.H.I.E.L.D. base, Henry Hayes, MD, a.k.a. Deathlock, is working on Gemma Simmons, who is dying of, evil superpower plague. And Mockingbird, who is also a doctor. Let's not forget, these are all a lot of super scientists. You might be a superhero, but you're also a super scientist. And they're all discussing the issue. We see... Melinda May get the drop on Coulson. Coulson is not down with what Danvers is doing. That basically Danvers is a woman with a hammer, Melinda, and every problem looks like a nail. Which is true, which is a great breakdown of what the problem is with the Ulysses structure. Is that, it's which we're going to get to when we get to what my pick of the week is. That everything looks like, that when you're in this, everything looks like, oh, this needs a full press superhero response. You see, Carol try to take down, and basically what it is Coulson realized that Daredevil was going to die in this fight with the Wrecking Crew. He does manage to, save Daredevil, which is great. He has a great little confrontation with Carol where he says, it says, I thought I told you to stay out of this. Is that your idea of a thank you? Actually, better question. By trying to change the future, has it occurred to you that you might be making it happen? Last time I checked, you weren't a quantum physicist. Last time I checked, neither were you. We need to understand this Inhuman better. We need to understand the situation better. No, I don't think you understand, Phil. There is no we. And one of the things I like about this is this idea of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, who are these human level characters. You get like Melinda, Daredevil, and Coulson says she does not look happy. And Daredevil says it's a complicated business, this predicting the future. That's the thing. It is complicated. Far too complicated for a simple binary question. Whose side are you on? Danvers or Stark? There has to be a third option. Which is what I love, because you know that every single human in the Marvel Universe is saying that every single day. Mm-hmm. And then getting to what I was saying about like just cameos, and we live in the Marvel Universe. We have Deathlock and Mockingbird and Fitz. They're testing some Stark Mandroid armor for S.H.I.E.L.D. They're feeling kind of down because they're like, why are we being put to this duty? We should be out there doing something. And then and then we get it revealed that Fitz, which I think it already has been revealed, that Fitz is actually working for General Starkovsky, who is sort of a villain of this piece. We're going to have to see what exactly happens with that. But basically, the new head of Coulson's elite strike team shows up. And do you know who the new head of Coulson's elite strike team is?
No.
Elektra Natchios, assassin.
Oh.
And she basically knocks out Fitz and says, because he says, which is why Director Hill felt an outsider was best to take control. And Fitz says, sure, but there's outsider, and then there's, well, you. He says, of course you'd say that, be the one to say that, Mr. Fitz. After all, you are the traitor. You just want to now see Elektra show up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because really, the Netflix shows and Agents, they could cross, it could work, it could happen, make it happen. Yeah, I liked it. It was a great book. Reminded you why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a good book within the Marvel Universe. It's about human-level characters trying to sort through the superhuman world of problems that we deal with. Because, let's face it, that is the crux of it, is that there are more humans than superhumans. And we have to find a way to survive in that superhuman world as humans, even in a world of fantastical physics where, the best humans are really amazing, where Phil Coulson, middle-aged Clark Gregg can be Batman level Phil Coulson. It just works in this universe, but that, you've still got to survive this, and that, even Batman level Phil Coulson is not freaking Iron Man even. It's Batman level dodge does not help you against repulsor blasts and missile tracking. So that's my take on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 8. Big thumbs up. Really like the book, That's my take. What are your next 3 books, Phil?
Well, they all have a theme. They have some sort of Spider-Man in it. So I guess I'll start with Spider-Man 2099 number 13, which is a Civil War II tie-in.
Dun dun dun.
In the beginning, Miguel's talking to Roberta, the future Captain America, and she said she has to go back to 2099. She says her family might be trapped there. But meanwhile, at the same time, we see Ulysses at New Atalan has a vision as she's going through the time portal, and he tells Medusa, call Peter Parker and get me a piece of paper, something to draw with. But then in 2099, Roberta arrives. She lands in the zoo. She basically has to punch out a tiger. And she goes to her the apartment her family had. But of course, the timeline's changed. There's a new family there. She tries calling her husband, but she just gets a video voicemail. And of course, the timeline's changed, so nobody knows. I guess nobody knows her in 2099 anymore, Charlie, because the public eye police attack her. They're about to surround her and take her down when she gets some help from. I don't know if you read the 2099 books back when they first came out, but she gets help from Ravage.
Oh, good old Ravage.
Yeah.
That was like the one original 2099 character.
Yeah. So then they take off, and then back in the present, Peter calls Miguel, and he's like, at first he asks him, he's like, you're not planning on beating the crap out of anyone today, and Miguel's like, oh, you heard about Man Mountain Marco. But Miguel tells him, he was just worried about Tempest and everything, and Miguel's like, is that what you called about? And Peter's like, no, it's actually about Ulysses, and Miguel's like, tried reading it once, couldn't hack the whole stream of consciousness style. Gave up halfway through episode 2. He's like, why? And Peter's like, not Joyce's book, The Inhuman. And Miguel's like, who? He's like, I was out of town. And Peter's like, where, the Arctic? He goes, no, 2099. So Peter explains to him about how Ulysses has visions, and he goes, oh, so you've opened the time portal recently? And Miguel's like, yeah, why? He's like, well, that's must have what triggered his vision. He says, you were telling me about a new female Captain America. He goes, is this her? Does this mean anything to you? And he holds up the drawing I guess Ulysses did. It's Roberta, like, crucified on a cross, it looks like.
Oh, my.
Yeah, so things aren't going good. So Miguel's like, I'll handle it. I'll take care of it. And the minute he hangs up with Peter, he's like, holy shock, holy shock, holy shock. So he goes down to the time vault. He's been doing a automatic return fail-safe on the time portal. He even gave Roberta one, but he tells Lila, don't do that, just keep the portal open. And she says, it's a sizable drain on the power, eventually, once it runs on power, we'll have to shut down the recharge. And if it does that, I might not be able to pull you back right away. And he says, okay, we'll cross our fingers. So, yeah, good idea. He jumps through the portal. He ends up in the zoo, just like Roberta did. He's thinking, does he have to go to Alchemex to find her? But he doesn't want to run into the Sinister Six. But the issue ends. He gets blasted by a plasma cannon, and then he gets beaten with what looks like a baseball bat. And at the end, we see it's a public eye officer, but it's a familiar one. Another old 2099 figure, Jake Gallows.
Oh, Jake.
Yeah, so Jake takes him away, it looks like, so.
Now, see, I'd never really read Punisher 2099. Did Jake, because I know he started as a cop, and then he became the Punisher. Did he maintain his secret identity as a cop as the Punisher, or did he just go full Punisher?
The issues I read, I think he maintained his identity. I don't know if he kept it the whole time, because I didn't read the whole series.
Yeah. You know what I always liked about Jake Gallows was how much they worked in the Church of Thor.
Yes.
Into the storyline and this idea of the apotheosis, the man who finds the stick and becomes the god Thor, which is just such a beautiful take on the mythos of superheroism and how it might influence religious belief in a society. So yeah, I always loved that because I remember just the scene of his mother telling him, "Make sure you come to church on Thursday because it's Thursday and that's when we go to church because this is the universe where Thor is a god still." And I like that.
But yeah, it was a big thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
But this next book. Tell me you saw Amazing Spider-Man 16.
No, I did not.
Oh!
Is this the one I've been waiting for like months? The Return of Otto?
No, but I believe it gave us the hint of how they're going to bring him back, possibly. Well, it opens up in Mount Sinai Hospital because remember Jay Jameson passed out last.
Oh yes. Yes.
Well, I guess he has some kind of what did they say he has? It's some kind of first, Jonah tries to blame Peter for sending his father all over the world, and he probably got some kind of disease in one of those foreign countries. But then the doctor tells him it's a hereditary disease.
Dun dun dun.
But then another doctor comes in, and she's telling him that there's a new cutting edge procedure, but I guess it hasn't been tested yet. And they basically they send Peter all the details about it. You know what it is, Charlie? Basically, I guess here they can clone you new organs, or I don't know if it's just organs, but I'm guessing maybe they can clone you a whole body.
Wait, what now?
There's some kind of new cutting edge procedure where they can clone you new organs, or
well, that's what they did with Rhodey.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, and again, like I said, but what did they do with the old body?
I don't know. Well, this, I guess when they were first telling him, they're not saying a whole body, but they're saying they can grow, they can use the subject's own DNA to grow perfectly compatible organs ready for transplant with every genetic defect screened out. And because Peter's talking to Marconi later, and she's like, "Are you talking about cloning?" He says, "This is better than cloning. The subject would be healthier than before." And of course, Peter's on the private plane talking to her. She's in her office with the living brain, and she's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "We got to be careful. This all looks very promising, but," and all of a sudden, the living brain's like, "Yes, very promising indeed."
Yeah, but the question is he cloning an Otto body or a Peter body? Because that's the thing. I don't see Otto cloning, old fat Otto. I mean, maybe young hot Otto. Was there ever a young hot Otto?
well, like Peter was saying, they can make the body healthier and better than the original. So I'm thinking that's what I was telling you before. I'm thinking Otto's going to use his own DNA, but he's going to clone himself a body in shape, maybe with spider powers, so we get a superior Spider-Man.
Yeah, or maybe octopus powers. I don't know.
Then we're in the Jackal's laboratory, and he has. I guess the Lizard has Kurt Connor's brain. He has both Kurt Connors and Martha Connors working to give Electro his powers back.
Mm-hmm.
And Jackal's already cloned. I guess Electro's girlfriend died, and the Jackal brought her back. Then there's a fire at a Parker Industries plant. Hold on. Yeah, it's in in Oklahoma, and Spider-Man tries to save everyone, but one of Peter's employees gets injured, like, badly. Like, they tell the family, like, he doesn't have that much time left, so Peter calls that doctor and tells her, one of my employees is about to die, come on, let's do this procedure, money's not an issue, yada yada. And as she's on the phone with him, we see that the doctor is, I guess, working for the Jackal, with the Jackal.
Yeah, saw that coming.
And she's like, let me check with my supervisor. And there's the Jackal. And he's like, this wasn't part of the plan. And he thinks about it and he says, do it. Let's give Mr. Parker a taste of how the magic works. So they save his employee, and, him and the family are all grateful. But while Peter's talking to the guy who they saved using this procedure, his spider sense goes off. And he's like, why is my spider sense going off? So he's like, something's very wrong here. He's like, what did they do to him? And then the issue ends with Jonah going to that doctor and saying, he doesn't, he's not as rich as he was, but he has, I guess he has a bank account with everything he has left. He says, take every penny I have, but he's telling him to save his father. And the doctor's like, well, Mr. Jameson, we prepared a demonstration to show you that there's no boundary we can't cross. And what did they show him, Charlie?
His wife who died?
Yes, Marla.
Yeah.
Yes. She said, it's good to see you again, dear. Feels like a lifetime.
Oh, man. That's not cool.
So what?
No, well, I mean, as a villain, that's not cool. Because, his wife, that's the reason he hates Spider-Man, because, these criminals wearing masks. Uh-huh. It was a real stretch. Yeah, his criminal killed his wife, when he didn't pay the ransom. And, now I'm sad.
It's a big thumbs up, but I'm just like, are they going to bring... Because we've already seen Gwen Stacy in the Free Comic Book Day issue. I'm just like... Mm-hmm. So they're going to bring back every dead Spider-Man character now?
Yeah, but again, if it's a clone, it's not them. That's and not for nothing, if it's Marla Jameson at 22 or 32 when she died, and it's, J. Jonah Jameson at 62 today...
Well, no, she was younger than him, but no, she just died. It wasn't that long before Superior Spider-Man. So. Oh,
this is a different. Okay, then. Okay, I thought this was his first. I thought this was John's mother.
No.
Okay.
This was the latest wife. Yeah.
Oh, then who cares? That's just no. I thought it was John's mom. John Jameson's mom.
Yeah, no.
That, the woman that, basically informed his Uncle Ben, the anti-Uncle Ben, the person that taught him that do not trust people who take their power as authority, which is the counter argument that, with great power does not come great authority, Mr. Parker. You go follow some rules, Mr. Man, Mr. Menace.
And I know the clones aren't the originals, but I mean, even back in the day, the Jackals showed that he has the ability, don't ask me how, to give the clones memory, all the memories, because Ben Reilly had all Peter's memories up to the moment, he was a clone.
Yeah. Well, no, and the basic idea is that you do a scan of the brain with super Richard Stark technology that, get you all the quantum diodes of the brain, and then it can then access that when you grow the new body. That's essentially what they did with Rhodey. Like I say, and someone needs to deal with this in the Marvel universe. Rhodey had a body. Rhodey's brain was rewritten onto a clone body. What happened to the actual living body of Rhodey that got put into cold? Because that's the thing. Because I can't imagine them killing that body. Because he was perfectly alive. Mm-hmm. They must have just put him into cold storage. But now that all of his memories are on the new version. Mm-hmm. And Stark did it to his own self when he deprogrammed his brain, and then he, uploaded the backup copy. And then he says, who's happy? Because it was an old copy. And that apparently was before he met Happy Hogan, which is like weird since Happy Hogan was like in issue 2. It's like a little weird. I don't remember who this guy Happy is. It's like, well, he's been your best friend. How do you know who James Rhodes is? I mean, Yeah, but it's okay. But it was a very sad and beautiful line when he says, "Who's happy?" But also just shows that there are gaps when you do these things, which is why they're not the same person. When you rewrite the brain, you're going to lose something because it's not one for one. But as I say, I do think that the clones all have souls, so I think they do carry on, which, like I say, is the wizard's master plan. 1,000 clones, 1,000 souls, all of him in hell will eventually take over as the army of wizards. You watch. You watch. Because someday I'm going to write that story and it's going to be real in Marvel.
Yeah. What? That was the Jack was playing even in the 90s. Like, I think he wanted to replace all of humanity with clones because then he could control all of humanity.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't even make any sense because the clones are still going to be independent beings.
Well, I guess if you grow them, you can put in fail-safes or something.
Well, yeah, I guess, but... Then you might as well just have a gun and say, "I'm going to shoot you if you don't do what I say." You know?
No.
I mean, really, it's like, okay, well, that's a very complex way to go about it, but
I think since he was growing them from scratch, he could put in certain mental commands like, you can't disobey me or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you know what Charles Xavier would say about that. You know?
But if you're growing them from scratch, I don't know. But it was a thumb.
What's a supervillain plan? It's not designed to work, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
it was a thumbs up. This was issue 16. I think if the ad is accurate, it looks like maybe issue 18 is when Otto makes his big return because like the living brain is big on the front cover, like chasing Spider-Man and Miss Marconi. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it, so I'll definitely read next issue.
But yeah, and I can't wait for Clone Conspiracy. All right, my last one on my own, Spider-Man Deadpool number 8. Did you say you got a chance to look at this?
Yes, I did. And I have a question. I don't have a lot to say about it, but I do have a question about who Patient Zero might be.
I wanted your thoughts because nothing was ringing a bell for me because he said something about, what do you say, Peter Parker and Wade Wilson were responsible for his condition?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, why don't you give us because what I'm wondering is, because when Kane is created, he's all messed up and deformed.
Ah.
And I'm wondering, is he a Parker clone? Is he a Deadpool clone? Was he the Jackal's attempt to clone Deadpool? Although they say that he perfectly matched Parker, so I think he's got to be a Parker clone. That an early failed attempt. Patient Zero.
But where does Deadpool fit? But how do Wade Wilson and Peter Parker cross?
Yeah, well, I mean, as we saw in the previous issue, they knew each other all the way back in 1968. And maybe that was freaking intentional. Did you ever think that?
Yeah.
Just throw it back there. Oh, these guys were hanging out all the way back in the beginning. And so, remember when we had that event at that political convention? What?
But yeah, no.
So that's my take on it. But then also, and I didn't like this because they restore. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that at the end.
Well, they've done that before, but it was only temporary then too. But yeah, no, it opens up with Deadpool and Ellie playing, and then we get Peter talking to Miss Marconi, and then he's thinking about the whole thing Mephisto told him. Which I wonder, did you see? They're saying that Spider-Man, what is it? Renew your vows, one more chance.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's with Mary Jane and they have the daughter. I guess it's going to be a separate timeline. It's not going to be this.
Okay, I had not heard that, but okay, so that explains it.
Yep. So I just wonder if they're going to pull a Superman, and eventually, if that sounds a lot better, if they're going to kind of integrate that.
Yeah.
Who knows? With the whole clone thing, who knows? But no, basically, most of the issue is just Spider. I like this. I like the Spider-Man suit in here. I've never seen it before. It's all black, just like his other one, but instead of white, it's red eyes and the red spider on him.
Yeah, well, it kind of reminded me of the Scarlet Spider costume, which is what made me start thinking about Kane.
That's what I almost thought he was wearing at first. I was like, wait, is that Kane's Scarlet Spider suit? But no.
No, it's slightly different, but it's close enough for government work,
Well, it's like that. Is like, what was that? The last issue with Daredevil, when Spider-Man said to him, "Yeah, watch out for those black suit phases." Yeah, Peter was kind of mad at Deadpool for killing him twice, so he's kind of in a funk and wearing the black suit. But he's like, I guess the whole theme of the issue is just Peter's like saying, keep saying, Wade, what was it real? Were you really trying to be my friend, or were you just trying to get close so you could kill Parker?
Yeah, and you see, this is how you know Peter Parker is still just this big nerd. Because he just, you were really my friend. You just wanted to use me. It's like, Peter, you're a billionaire adult now. Don't be worrying so much about all that stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, in his defense, Deadpool did kill him twice.
Yeah,
he killed him, resurrected him, and killed him again.
Yeah, but this is the Marvel universe. That's Tuesday.
But they track down Patient Zero and they're fighting his. There's a bunch of creatures with him. So what? Do you think those are more genetic experiments?
Well, yeah. Well, those are all. Well, they say that basically he took a bunch of drug addicts off the street and just completely mutated them to make them into his loyal subjects. And then when they take the control collars off, they all start feeling the pain and the horror of their existence, which is sad.
Well, yeah, he says once they become self-aware, they pretty much lose all will to live.
Yeah, well, which makes sense, quite frankly. It was a good book. It was a good read. What bothers me is that, of course, so what we have is we have this, and another reason why I gotta think that Patient Zero is some sort of a Parker clone is that I think he's maybe a Parker clone. And not for nothing, who's to say that the Jackal was the only person, cloning Peter Parker? You get stuff out there, and someone says, well, what if we did a Spider-Man with the powers of Deadpool? What if, here, I'll even give you a little crazy on top of that. What if the entire process of creating a Deadpool was actually started with Patient Zero, that they were trying to, make that Spider-Man Wolverine hybrid, and that it didn't work, so they eventually made the Deadpool? I don't know, anything's possible, but, it was, but what bothers me is and they go to this whole thing about how, he created this silicate magnet to basically rain down a bunch of glass on them. And of course, when they do that, then all of a sudden Wade's healed. But they didn't give him the mustache, because they've given him the mustache the last couple of healings. So I was like, oh man, no mustache, no Magnum PI stash, man, come on. It was an artistic choice, I know, but as a proud wearer of a mustache myself, I'm a big believer in mustache consistency, which is why I'm glad that the new General Ross will have a mustache.
But yeah, and then the issue ends with Patient Zero giving a woman, I guess, some of Deadpool and Spider-Man's blood, which it looks like is going to give us our next villain.
Yep, Spider-Pool lady cat killer character. Okay. But
what you were saying, this might be another Peter Parker cloned by someone other than the Jackal. Do you know who they said, like, in the 90s, who the Jackal learned a lot of genetic tricks from?
No, who?
The High Evolutionary.
Oh. And you see, the High Evolutionary, he's the kind of guy that's going to say, hey, let's take these two guys and smoosh them together.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what happens when we take a Spider human and a Deadpool human and smash them together. You create a Patient Zero who has Parker's brains and delightfulness combined with the utter sheer agony of being a Deadpool. One downside to this is that Deadpool's back within the four walls.
Yeah.
And that was a little weird again, But aside from that, no, I enjoyed the book very much. Thumbs up.
Yeah, it was a big thumbs up. This was close to probably my pick of the week. It just Daredevil narrowly edged it out. But now that you're giving me all these thoughts, man, it might have been my pick of the week. I'm like, I'm thinking High Evolutionary.
Yeah, well, and I didn't even think of that. I did not even know the Jackal and the High Evolutionary hung out. And that brings me to my pick of the week, A-Force number 8. Because this book basically gives you why what they're doing with Carol is wrong, but presents it in a way that isn't overtly sexist. Because they don't have the guy being the misogynistic dude being right and the emotional lady being wrong. They have a bunch of women talking. And so, you open up, it's that, basically it's for the Project Pegasus attack, She-Hulk being killed, and then you see everyone sort of at She-Hulk's bed at the Triskelion. Nico steps out because she just needs to have a moment, and someone behind her says, "Hey, I like your arm." And she's like, "Are you kidding me?" And then she turns out, and it's Misty Knight, and they do a whole thing about, arm twins, because they both are missing an arm and have hers is mystical, his is mechanical, and they, but they're all buddies. And then you get Dazzler calling out Carol. And what happens is she says, "Carol, this is crazy. This has gone too far. Thanos has already killed War Machine, and now Jen is, look at her. This is not how it feels. It feels like you're taking the Inhuman Precog's predictive visions to the extreme. Well, a friend who followed you into battle lies on what could be her deathbed." And, Carol says, this is what Jen wanted. Her last words to me before she lost consciousness were to fight, to not let Tony dictate her future. And Dazzler says, "That is not actually true." And Carol says, "What? You weren't there, even there." He says, "Actually, I was. Just because you and Tony Stark were too puffed up to notice anyone except for each other." And it says, "I think you mean too busy grieving," Allison says, "Fine, whatever. You want to call it whatever you want to call it. I was there, or close enough, at least, that I heard what Jen said." "Good, then. You heard her say it's our future, Carol, not his. Fight for it." "And how do you know and how do we really know she was talking about Tony? For all we know, his could have meant Thanos. Hell, it's probably the last thing she remembers, getting creamed by Thanos." Says, "You're playing with semantics here, Allison. The point is, we can't really know for sure." And basically, you're getting into this great, in-depth conversation between Dazzler and Carol, where basically, Dazzler says, "Yes, I followed you to fight Thanos. Fighting Thanos is one thing. You're now looking at individual crimes and individual things, and that's a whole other ballgame. This is the argument that needs to be made. This is the argument that should be made. But when you have it being made by A-Force together, where it's a breakup in that structure, you're not making it. Because here's the thing. Carol is just as pig-headed here as she is in every other book. The difference is you're not playing her against a calculated, rational man and her emotional hysteria. You've got two women who are having it out and talking about what's going on. We also get into this great bit here where it's basically, so basically what it is, Carol says, "Ulysses had a vision, Nico. You're going to kill a girl named Alice. So we need to take into custody till we can figure out what's going on with you killing this girl called Alice." And this is this interesting self-fulfilling paradox, because of course what happens is she says, "Hey, I'm not going away. I'm a runaway. People are always betraying us, so we're used to running away." And she does this new spell, which is actually kind of a cool spell, because this is a spell she theoretically could use anytime she wants to, because basically she can teleport to any place in the world using the coordinates. She just can never teleport to the same exact coordinates twice. So as long as she just changes it to 1 degree north or 1 degree south, the next time she's fine. But she teleports to the safe house in Colorado. She says, and the best part is there's this lovely hot springs. And then she walks out of her little safe shack. And the town is infested by monster bugs, infecting everybody. And Elsa Bloodstone saves her. And Elsa Bloodstone has a Bloodstone hand. So they get more, arm twinsies friends thing going on. Basically, Dazzler and Singularity walk out after Nico disappears because Dazzler says, I know where she went, because when your power is to turn sound into light, you get really good at hearing stuff. So she knows the coordinates they went to, and then Medusa, who is on Carol's side, is like, look, let's figure this out. And Carol says, you know what, we don't need to know who Nico is, we just need to find out who this Alice is, and so they do the backtrack. Then Nico and Elsa fighting through this town. You find out that basically what's happening is that the humans are turning into aliens, or these monsters. Elsa was hired to defeat them, because the monster started showing up when this girl, Alice, disappeared. Dun, dun, dun. And when Nico says, wait, did you say your daughter's name was Alice? And then in walks Carol and Medusa and says, you know she did, Nico. Come with us now so we can stop all this before it starts. And this is this great point about, causing the future. Because that's what we're doing here. We're causing the future where but it's also this sort of circular causing of the future. So if they hadn't told Nico that, oh, you're going to kill this girl, Nico would have never ran, would have never wound up in the situation where she's going to kill Alice. At the same time, if Nico had said, okay, let me go with you and we'll figure this out, then it also would have never happened. So basically, yes, Carol is being pig-headed about this, and that is causing these problems. But the fact that everyone else on the other side is being pig-headed about this, that even when they're saying, well, let's sort this out, let's figure out what's going on, nobody wants to actually figure it out. No one wants to say, well, this is the information we have. How do we use it? So let's discuss it. And that's what's causing things as well, because if Nico had said, okay, let's go back to a place and let's discuss what our options are, then you wouldn't have her killing Alice. Now, of course, the flip side of that is you also wouldn't have discovered that, alien monster city. So yay, we're saving that too. It's very interesting, very complex, but this is what Civil War should be. A-Force 8 is what Civil War should be. And I'll say this also, I think that S.H.I.E.L.D. was what Civil War should be. I think that in A-Force and S.H.I.E.L.D., you're getting this backstory that you're not getting in these main books, where you're getting this nuance. You're getting in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that problem of being humans in a superhuman world. And in A-Force, you're getting a real conversation about what these powers are and how they should be used. And I think that these, I always say that, whether or not you liked Fear itself usually had to do with who read Loki. If you were reading Loki, you liked Fear itself because there was a bunch of backstory in Loki that you weren't getting in the main books. Mm-hmm. But if you read Loki, then you say, oh, okay, I get what's going on. And if you didn't read it, you didn't like it. I think that a lot of people, if they're not reading A-Force, if they're not reading Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they're not going to get what's going on. And I'm definitely going to say A-Force first and foremost. Read A-Force, and I think you're going to like Civil War a lot better. That's my opinion. And that's my pick of the week.
Isn't that the nature of these big crossovers? Is like you get all the action and like the big events in the main miniseries, and then in the individual series you get like more of the like the personal struggle of like the characters.
Yeah, but I do feel that there tends to be like one book that is the one that's carrying the backstory, Mm-hmm. And this is something, like I said, we'll get to when we get to Suicide Squad discussion about how, you have this big story that people want to see and it's easy to sell, but that you do need to have this backstory to make it a good story. If you don't stop to talk about what's going on behind the scenes, you never really get to where you need to be. That's my opinion on it. I don't know. And now we're down to our last 4 books, Phil.
Yeah, where would you like to go?
Do you want to start with The Accused?
Sure. Oh, this was another good one. This is also going to be a pick of the week.
Yeah, it was very good. It's a Daredevil book. I'm not 100% comfortable with it from a legal thriller point of view. Although I do like it opening up with, Daredevil, fighting the villains and like, oh, what? There's a civil war going on? Oh, yeah. Did not know that. I like them talking about, Clint can weaponize anything in your briefcase. Still I'm going with the glasses, though. And the cane. So, it's like, oh, yeah, don't take it in your briefcase. But, yeah, take that long, pointy stick. And
don't take paper clips, but, take it.
Basically, they offer him... they offer him, what they say, man 2, 10 years out in 6. He says, no. He says, this is Ms. Stansler, Mr. Murdoch, your offer is rejected. I don't deserve any gift. I killed a man. I killed my friend. I had a reason, and it was a good one, but maybe it wasn't the right one. Maybe I made a terrible, the most terrible mistake, which is nice. I really like seeing Clint have some guilt on this. Because I do think when you get into some of the, a few years ago, there was a schizophrenic man in New York who was naked and was climbing on top of an awning for a bodega. And, these cops took out the taser and they tased the guy and he fell down and he snapped his neck. And a few weeks later, the cop who actually did the tasing, committed suicide. Because, on one hand, you're in that moment and you're just maybe even laughing about it, thinking, oh, this is just a wacky YouTube clip. And then someone dies. Mm-hmm. And that cop who pulled the trigger, who made a choice, he's now got to deal with that guilt. He's got to deal with what occurred. And it's not to defend every cop who's ever shot someone or every cop who's made a mistake. Because some of these cops sit in pure righteous indignation about the choices they made. Mm-hmm. But I think far more often than not, there are a lot of cops who, when they pull that trigger, are left sitting there saying, I took a man's life, and I can never undo that. I don't think I deserve to go to jail because I think I made a call that I had to make in that moment. But I think it's too easy to sometimes say, oh, they were just looking to make that. They were just looking for someone to shoot. And I think that's the complexity of the entire police violence scenario. Where in the end, what you're really talking about is a culture of violence that is perpetuated in our society with underfunded police officers who are left to make choices that aren't always the best choices.
And, our mental health system isn't the best either, so you have, they're faced with, people with mental problems sometimes.
Well, yeah, 100%. That is the crux of that biscuit is that, after the Dallas shooting, the police chief came out and said, look, we are every day, rather than dealing with the problems, we just say, well, tell the cops to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Tell the cops to deal with it. You have a mental illness problem, tell the cops to deal with it. You have this problem, tell the cops to deal with it. And the cops are not always the best people to deal with these things. And that's the truth of it, is that sometimes the best way to deal with these things is with, doctors and medicine, And the Hulk definitely needed some mental health treatment. He should not have been left on his own devices, wandering around to experiment on himself. Someone should have sat down with Bruce Banner and say, Bruce, we really think you need to talk to someone about what's going on in your life. But again, that's the crux of comic book storylines where people so quickly forget, that's the D-Man story. D-Man was Cap's buddy and his sidekick. And then as soon as he wasn't actively at Cap's side, Cap just forgot about him. Yeah. Sad story. So, going into this, you find out that when Daredevil doing his investigation, you find out that I think this is the General Starkovsky. Maybe that's Tony Stark's real father. I don't know. General Starkovsky wants to re-implement the Superhuman Registration Act. Which I don't remember them actually ever repealing the Superhuman Registration Act. I think they just stopped enforcing it. I'm not entirely certain. And basically what happens is Daredevil withdraws his objection to something he got excluded based on the idea that, Hawkeye wasn't getting a fair trial. Now, truth be told, that just opens up a legal malpractice question, because he got it excluded, and then to remove his objection to the exclusion is really problematic. And
that again, that's the whole nature of Matt Murdock, though. I mean, everything he does could be considered,
Well, yeah. I think it's time we just admit the man is not a good lawyer. He is not a good lawyer. He is no Jen Walters. Jen Walters wouldn't have pulled a stunt like that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's the threat that was even made against him. They said, they said he's already been disbarred twice.
Yeah.
You want to go for a third time?
Yeah. Well, and that's the crux of that biscuit. And we get our closing statements, and I think that he does make a good statement, and then we get that the judge is being influenced by someone, and but of course the jury acquits, because at the end of the day, honestly, Clint Barton's defense attorney should have moved this out of New York City. He should have moved this out of New York City because New York City was recently destroyed by the Hulk. Why this trial took place in New York City, which had recently suffered a Hulk attack in World War Hulks, is beyond me. And quite frankly, if the prosecutors want to move for a secondary trial against Hawkeye, I think they have a real shot. I think they have a real shot because I think that there was clearly legal malpractice afoot here. And the fact that, hey, if it ever comes out again, which it will eventually, that prosecutor was secretly a superhero, that completely biases the entire investigation. Do not surprise me if Clint Barton does not get a needle in the arm by the end of this.
I forget the fact Daredevil had a little talk with the judge at the end, too.
Well, yeah, ex parte conversations with the judge. Yes, she doesn't know you're actually the lawyer, but you know that, Matt. You know that. Matt does not really have a lot of respect for the law. It is a wonder how Foggy Nelson carried him this far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hope that at some point we're actually going to tune in with Foggy Nelson in this whole story, and he's going to be at this major law firm. He's going to be at Kurtzberg, Lieber, Book, and Nelson. He's going to be a partner in the biggest superhuman law firm in the world, because once he cut off that dead weight of Matt Murdock, that man flew. That's my take on it. Okay, what's the next book, Bill?
I was gonna say, before we leave that, just the other warning: this was a $5 book.
Oh yeah. And for what it's worth, I've got 6 books without the Fallen next week. I don't know if I'm going to get the Fallen next week. I really don't know. Because Gwenpool's out.
Oh yeah.
Gwenpool meets Miles. And Gwenpool apparently has this problem. Spoilers. When you know someone's secret identity and you see them on the subway, it's real hard. It's like when you see a celebrity on the subway. The only difference is that people don't know. Celebrities aren't trying to hide. And, superheroes don't think you just know what they look like. Wacky. So what do you want to do next? All New, All Different, or Black Panther?
You didn't finish the annual.
No, if you want, you can go to the annual. I'm about halfway through it. I have some comments, but yeah. For everyone, I did not get the chance to finish the annual. The All New, All Different Avengers annual, which I really loved. I'm about halfway through it. I'm trying to read it now in between books, and it gets crazy sometimes, kids. Let me tell you, there are a lot of books to. Wait, why don't you start with the annual? I'll pick where I can.
I won't spoil it too much for you.
No, spoil away. It's fine. It's mostly a gag book.
Yeah, basically it's a bunch of short stories. It's mostly Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, online reading different people's fan fiction of superheroes, herself included in most of them. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Well, so 2 points. Gotta open up. Grove Street. Okay, those of you who don't know, I live in Jersey. I work in Jersey City. They keep on referencing Grove Street in Ms. Marvel because there's a path station on Grove Street. So if you are a New York writer and you're going into New Jersey, you always know that you're going through Grove Street. But I don't think any of these people get off at Grove Street. I just think they just know that Grove Street is a street in Jersey City. So keep on remembering. I think this is the first time they've ever suggested that Ms. Marvel lives on Grove Street. I don't think she does. I don't think Grove Street, because I actually walk Grove Street. I mean, generally speaking, because they kind of draw her house much more suburbanized. And mostly what you're going to get on Grove Street, first off, Grove Street is actually mostly just businesses. So if you're on Grove Street, you're pretty much all businesses. There's not really a residential section of Grove Street in Jersey City. But anyway, so she goes there. She finds out that people are writing this fanfic of Ms. Marvel and Nova and Miles being all in love with her. Then she starts reading them all these things, and oh goodness, her and Ms. Marvel, her and Captain Marvel are fighting a bunch of Skrulls. Captain Marvel dies. Ms. Marvel gives her the captain title. Ms. Marvel saves the day, and then Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel, comes back and says, "Thank you for holding my title." Says, "Wait, but she gave it to me." And then, it's called a mantle, not a womantle. Golly, Captain Marvel, you're right. You've shown me the error of my ways. No more social justice warrioring for me. My pretentious name, he says, anything else you want to apologize? My pretentious name. From now on, call me Miss Marvel. How can I make the other Avengers like me better? Perhaps I'll bake them muffins. And you see her enraged in the final panel. The She-Hulk adventure I did read. Honestly, this was just weird.
Yeah.
I guess this creature, it's like, is it romance? Is it horror? It says, don't force yourself. Take your time. I mean, it's kind of fun because it is kind of this fourth wall breaking kind of,
it's like anime or something.
Well, what it is, it's kind of a reference. You remember, and they actually did one with Daffy Duck, and then they did another with Bugs Bunny, and it's the exact same cartoon. They just switched the characters on it, where basically they're talking to the artist, and the artist is in the Daffy Duck one, it's Bugs is the artist, and just drawing all this nonsense to put Daffy through nonsense. In the Bugs one, Elmer's the artist, and I always like that because it's one of those few times when Elmer gets the upper hand on Bugs. Wackiness. It's just wacky. I mean, there's nothing really even to discuss on it. It's just a wacky thing, but it was fun. But here's the one I really loved. Hiss Marvel and the Spectacular Spider Mole. It's clearly in the Spider-Ham universe, and we see our heroes fighting the Duck-O-Lantern. What is
Quack-O-Lantern.
Quack-O-Lantern, sorry. Yes, the Quack-O-Lantern. And he breaks the fourth wall, saying that, and Hiss Marvel says, "Oh, now that I say it out loud, I realize what a bad name that is. So forced." and says, "That's what you get for breaking the fourth wall." And the next one is Ms. Marvel versus Squirrel Girl, which is where I was no longer able to read. So why don't you finish the book for us, Phil?
Well, it looks like there's a big battle between Miss Marvel and Squirrel Girl, and then it kind of ends with Squirrel Girl getting a bunch of squirrels form Ultimate Squirrel Girl, and I guess she becomes like a big Voltron-like robot and basically kicks Miss Marvel away. But they show that was just part of the video game the two of them were playing.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so they're in some kind of restaurant or a coffee shop or something. Yeah, they were just playing that video game.
Playing fight game. And look, there's Carol Danvers and She-Hulk there, too.
Yes. And then the next story is a story about Miss Marvel being obsessed with this guy named Kenneth, who I guess kind of saved her when she was going to get shot from behind by an agent of Hydra, but must be the bad Hydra.
Yeah.
He warned her, and then she supposedly she's all obsessed with him because she said she She went to the Watcher. I bribed the Watcher, convinced the Vision to hack Google, and had Doctor Strange consult this with the spirits to find you. So she goes home with Kenneth and punches out his stepdad. I guess his stepdad, because he yells at him, "You're not my real dad." And Miss Marvel's reading that. She's like, "Oh, get help."
Just caught up with the end.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Yeah. Spoiler alerts. One of the people putting up the story was Miles Morales himself. Until someone tells him to take it down. Did you see who told him to take it down?
Phil Coulson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. But you know what that really means?
What?
Miles loves Kamala.
Well, yeah. Gank tried kind of hinted around at that last.
Well, yeah, but he's writing his little independent, and me and Miss Marvel, we fell in love and lived happily ever after. Says in my dreams, but yeah, in his dreams. But Phil's the moderator because you need a good moderator. That was good. I like that. Big thumbs up.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that.
Good payoff at the end too. Okay, you want to do Black Panther or All New, All Different?
Well, do you want to do All New, All Different since we just did the annual?
Sure, let's hop on it. Where we get the Baby Hitler paradox.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I was a little confused. So, was that shadowy figure? Was that Kang?
Well, I don't know. We don't know who the shadowy figure is. Honestly,
I'm just wondering if it's like Kang or someone. Basically, so is that the paradox? Could it be Kang making the Vision create Kang's origin?
What? No. Well, I mean, what I'm guessing, there's several options. And for what it's worth, you see there's more than one of them. Because it's a shadowy thing. And you see at one point he is fighting two of them. You know what it immediately reminded me of? The Void.
Oh.
And, the Void, because, of course, for what it's worth, back in Dark Avengers, we did get this great reference to the Void as the angel of death, raining down death upon the firstborn male child of every of the Pharaoh in biblical times. So, for what it's worth, that it has an existence in that point of origin. I don't know what that creature is. So, plotline for anyone who's reading the book, the Vision, he wants to basically kill Kang. He wants to basically baby Hitler him. At least that's what it seems to be that he wants to do. He wants to go back to the beginning of Kang and then kill him before he could become Kang. Kill him before he can become Rama-Tut, etc. There's an interesting point in this, which is that the entire reason why Rama-Tut and Kang are two different beings is because of the divergent timelines, which means that really no matter what Vision does, and he should know this, he's just going to create an alternate timeline, one where he does something, one where he doesn't. Although I think that might be what he's trying to do. I think he might be trying to pull an Ethan on Kang here, but we'll get to that in a minute. So as first Vision goes back and basically breaks into Parker Industries because everybody knows they got time machines there. And it's like, this is like going to be the biggest open secret in the Marvel universe. Like, oh, you want to go back in time? Parker Industries bought up the Baxter Building, which has all of Reed Richards' stuff, and there's like 6 time machines in there. So just go there. You'll find one. Just look around for like 5 minutes. You're gonna find a time machine. Don't worry. And Parker, no security. Like, just so bad security apparently, because he's breaking in there. Miguel is just using time machines left and right. No one's watching him, and we know that Power Princess, Warrior Woman, is going to try and steal a time machine next to bring back Namor. So
the time was all Swiss cheese before. So is it just like Franklin and Reed Richards holding the timeline together at this point?
Well, I think when they rebuilt the universes, I think they probably patched sort of papered over the mess in the time stream. I gotta assume they did. If they didn't, they really screwed things up. But yeah, so honestly, you know what this reminds me of? So back on Star Trek, they had this episode where they revealed that warp drives were ripping the fabric of the universe. And we had to stop using warp drives because they were ripping the fabric of the universe. It says, okay, from now on, we will only use warp drives in dire emergencies. And from that point on, amazing how often a dire emergency showed up. And I do think that's sort of what we're getting here. It's like they wanted to stop time travel, but it's just too good of a story. So someone keeps on wanting to do time travel. Anyway, so the Vision is fighting this smoke monster, and the smoke monster says, "Are you trying to protect Kane?" He says, "No. Didn't you realize every step you've..." Well, actually, because first off, he's fighting the smoke monster again, which leads him to the Kang helmet, which lets him find Kang's origin point. And then he finds the baby Kang in the Richards family bedroom, and he's looking at the baby, and there is the smoke monster again. And for what it's worth, they actually give him the same speech pattern as the Void, with the black white words on black borders. And he says, it says if you kill him or don't kill him, it's not going to cause any more paradoxes, because everywhere Kang goes is a paradox. His existence is a paradox. So, don't worry about tearing. And that's actually interesting, because it kind of addresses that. It's like, hey, Kang is going to tear apart the time stream anyway. So you killing him isn't going to make it any more torn apart, But it does have this almost devilish aspect of it, of this smoke monster whispering in the Vision's ear. And then when, Nathaniel the 23rd runs in to see poor old Kang taken out of his crib, we don't know what happens yet. And what I think is that rather than just killing baby Kang, he wants to, sort of what they did with Ethan, was try to raise him to be a better person. Try to raise him to not be the history's greatest monster. That's my take on it. I don't know. What do you think, Phil?
I don't know. Like I was saying before, I didn't know if this was Kang or Divergent Kang. Kind of like that endless loop, creating his own origin. It's
an interesting take on it too. The idea that that what makes Kang becomes Kang is that Vision stole him.
Yeah. And Kang made him.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be an ironic twist of fate?
Yes.
Craziness. That brings us to our last book, Phil.
Black Panther number 5.
And I gotta say this right now. Even though it didn't make my pick, even though it wasn't my pick, it's like this. If A-Force hadn't addressed all the problems in the Marvel Universe prior to this moment, this would have been my pick of the week. Ta-Nehisi Coates is just like the best writer of comic books out there. And he walks this walk in such a profound and nuanced and intelligent way. Yes, I know. Basically, what I'm saying is that Ta-Nehisi Coates, I think that guy's gonna have a career ahead of him. I don't know. He got this little comic book writing gig, but I think that guy's gonna make a good name for himself. That's a name to watch, Ta-Nehisi Coates. So we see Black Panther fighting the rebels. They manage to save a bunch of suicide bombers who have essentially Iron Man things in their chest. They make a point that this was something that was invented by a good man, but it's being used for evil, basically suggesting, this was something that was invented by Dr. Ho, Yinsen Ho, to keep Tony alive, but it's being perverted, much in the way that Tony perverted the invention himself. And then they all return to, they're using Manifold to teleport, and they go back to the capital with the captured suicide bombers. And then we see T'Challa and his aides meeting with Alexei Sablenova, Internal Defense of Simcaria, Alejandro de Jesus, Public Safety for Santo Marco. Santo Marco, I believe that was the country that the hate monger took over many years ago before Winter Soldier killed him. Sisawatha Hang, State Security Madripoor, Carl Von Bear, Secret Police Alberia, and then, of course, Jorik Crowell, Intelligence Directorate of Genosha. And we have some nice little bits here of basically T'Challa reading the room and all these guys basically saying, hey, look, you're no different than us. You want to say you're a hero, but quite frankly, the only way that you rule is through fear and intimidation, yada, yada, yada. Basically calling him out for the same thing that the rebels are calling him out for, which is that, you rule through fear and intimidation, but also saying the only way that you do rule is through fear and intimidation. We get back to Shuri in the spirit realm with the mother goddess and the Jaya is what they're calling this place, the spirit realm. And they're talking about this duchy called Awad and the outsiders who came to conquer them, the warriors. And then the Duke basically says, we will fight them on the landing ports and in the places, and they turn back the invaders. Classic story. And the moral lesson is either you are a nation or you are nothing, which of course gives a nice parallel between what the evil guys said to T'Challa, which is that, a king without was it them or someone else? But basically, it is this idea that, a king without loyalty, or a king who anyway, I can't remember the exact quote. Moving right along, we have this great scene where Black Panther is talking to the terrorist, where he basically, he just like Squirrel Girl level of talking out your problems, just turns the guy around, and he gives him the information he needs. And then we see the evil guy at the first meeting. He's saying what he told T'Challa to do, and it says, of course, T'Challa said he'd do none of it, but that was the problem. But of course, then they kill the guy, and then they put on mass media everything the guy said. I told T'Challa to promise to do that. And it says, pick 5 chiefs at random and execute their youngest child. I told T'Challa to promise to do that every month until the rebels were rooted out. To burn crops on a whim, to lay with the wives of men as needed. Only in terror can a wise man rule. Ordered chaos is the point. Bum, bum, bum. And then, of course, that was Zeke Stain and the bad guys plotting against their overthrow of Wakanda. Just a brilliantly written book. I'm not doing it justice. Let me tell you that, kids, right now. I am not doing Black Panther #5 justice. This is... I'm going to say this is probably one of the best books Marvel's putting out right now.
Yeah, it's consistently an excellent book every issue. That's why I always like you to do the rundown on this, because I don't think I can't do it justice.
Yeah. Well, it is just fantastic, and it deals with this. I got to tell you, if you're not buying Black Panther, buy it. Just buy one issue. I promise you'll be hooked. This is the heroine of comic books, kids. You stick that needle in your arm, you're going to be coming back. I promise you.
If you're a Marvel fan, you'll enjoy this book.
Well, I'm going to say, even if you're not a Marvel fan, because it's not
true.
It's in the Marvel universe, but it's not like it's reliant on the Marvel universe. I mean, there is the history of the Marvel universe in here. You do have, there is stuff about, the Weather Witch and all that, because he used to be married to Aurora.
Yeah. It gives you added depth, but you don't need to be a
you don't. You could walk into this and be, wow, this is one of the best literary comic books I've ever read, and that is my praise on this. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Okay, Phil, should we give social media?
Sure. If you want to discuss any of these books with us, or even, recommend the book that we're not reading, because believe it or not, there are still books we aren't reading. So you can email us, marvelroundup@gmail.com. Facebook is All New Marvel Roundup. Our Twitter is @Marvel_Roundup. And our shared Instagram is World's Finest Roundup. And Charlie, where can people gain your wisdom and knowledge.
Yeah, well, you can always write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. And, of course, you can follow me on the Twitters when I live tweet various shows and other forms of communication at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look at the 2 E's in the middle for quality. And, of course, always listen. Right now, every 7 o'clock Eastern Time, The Incredible Hulk on MeTV, so that we can do the Gamma Cast with Phil Parrish on Saturday mornings. Come and join me. Yes, all that there. So there was something else I wanted to... Oh, yes, and quite frankly, I'm looking for an excuse to read Spider-Woman. I'm looking for an excuse to read Mockingbird. If you like these books and want them reviewed, write me. Say, hey, Charlie, please pick this up. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I will do so. My word as a gentleman. And another book, any Marvel book you want, let me know.
Ooh, control Charlie Esser.
I am your puppet on a string. I'm not Ultron. I've got strings to tie me down.
Anyway, if you want to discuss anything Marvel or even DC with me, email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. And basically, any form of social media, just search nightwingpdp.
He's out there, folks.
Hey, another one under 2 hours. We're like at an hour 34. Not bad.
That's perfect, man. That's like 3 days of listening to comic books. If you do a 30-minute read, it works out perfectly.
Yep.
That's your commute to work, your commute home, and then one more.
There we go.
And then you put in super connectivity. You're set.
Nice. But, come back next week, everyone. I'm sure I think there's a lot of books next week also.
Yeah, I got 6, like I said, not even counting The Falling.
I'm trying to remember how many I have. Maybe 1 or 2 less, but it's still a big week.
So you get The Fallen. Get all over.
I don't know. I have a ton of books, and I don't even think Fallen's on my list.
Oh boy. Well, figure it out.
Marvel, you're killing us.
Yeah. That's how they mix the monies.
Well, come back next week, everyone. Or else we'll have that horrible lawyer Matt Murdock take you to court and sue you. Good night.
Good night.